Yeah, we have out of Nevis, Mr. Hensley Daniel. Good afternoon, Hensley.
Good afternoon, Julian. How are you?
Man, I am doing fine. I'm doing excellent.
Okay, good. Well, you know, Julie, we are doing excellent. Whenever the mango season is in, it's good in Nevis.
It's pretty good down here, too. I mean, I have 2 trees in my yard, Hensley, a grafted and a Nevis poly.
Oh, okay.
And both of them did exceptionally well this year.
So you're putting on some weight? No?
Boy, I've been eating 8, 9, 10 mangoes a day, you know.
That's good. That's good.
So it's mango mania in the Federation right now.
That's where you cut imports of cut the consumption of foreign fruits.
Oh, long time. I mean, I specialize in my local fruits,
Okay. You know.
So it's good to have the former Deputy Premier, Mr. Hensley Daniel, on the line. And Hensley, what's going on in the island of Nevis? What's the latest?
Plenty of things are going on here, Junie. I want to bring to the attention of the public this afternoon that we have 2 companies here in Nevis,
Yes.
which are the subject of an indictment in Florida, which began on the 13th of May. And one of the companies, Fidelity Insurance Company of Anguilla, has 3 persons as its directors, and I would share them with you. And I am reading from the Register of Companies filed in Anguilla on the 16th of October in 2003. Those 3 persons are Keithley F.T. Lake Anguilla, South Hill Anguilla. That's his address. The second one is Dwayne Critchfield, who is one of the central figures in the investigation. 1107 Huntington Lane, Safety Harbor, Florida. And the third one is Mark Brantley, division at Stony Grove. And the company has been identified in the indictment as being involved in fraud. And I will just read very, very briefly for you, Junie. Fidelity Insurance Company, mind you. These are the 3 directors. They, among other entities, they promoted, marketed, and implemented a fraudulent offshore tax strategy known as the Business Protection Plan. The BPP strategy enabled the defendant's affluent clients to claim business expense deductions based on sham insurance premium payments made to offshore entities, Fidelity Insurance Company, in amounts intended to substantially reduce the client's taxable income for a particular year. The so-called insurance premiums were not based on actual business risks, but rather on the client's interest in reducing business income for tax purposes. Now, all I'm saying here, Julie, it looks very strange to me that the present Deputy Premier of the country is a director of a company that is being indicted for fraud in the United States.
Where did you get these documents from, Hensley? Are they available to the general public?
I'm reading from them. They're available. I am reading from them. From the court cases in Florida. It filed the 13th of May at 2 p.m.
So there is an ongoing court indictment against the company directors of Fidelity Trust?
Right, which is Dwayne Critchfield, and the other 2 directors are Keithley Lake and Mark Brantley. Now, this doesn't sit well with me, Julie. You know why? We want people at the top of government to be void of this kind of shadow, and it cannot be. It cannot be business. It cannot be business as usual. Let me just share one other point which comes out from the indictment, because the indictment, I will get it to you. It's an 8-page document, and it says it was further part of the conspiracy that the defendant Critchfield and Donaldson would and did cause their clients to file false and fraudulent corporate and individual tax returns which claim deductions for BPP, Business Protection Plan premiums paid. Now, with regards to Fidelity Insurance Company, of which Mr. Brantley is down as a director, on or about August 2003, Critchfield told his attorneys that no claims had been made under any of the approximately 75 BPP policies that Fidelity Insurance Company had issued, and that Fidelity Insurance Company did not establish reserves for insurance losses under the BPP. Now, what this is saying, June, is that here is a company of which Mr. Brantley is down as a director, which was involved in massive fraud, in my view, massive fraud. Now, this doesn't sit well because here it is. I have a document here with me again, written by Charles Wilkin, and he was talking about the responsibilities of directors and what they are supposed to know. And it says, so comes Charles Wilkin, preparing a paper on governance a few years ago, point to the importance of directors must know what the deal is. So, Julie, my position is simple. People at this level can't be involved in this level of fraud. And they have to leave the public offices because until and unless we see something different, and there is no need for any explanation. Once this is certified, and I have it here from Anguilla, he must leave. Why? Because he was not a juvenile. He was under 16 in 2003. So this must be something which he knows.
Let me understand this right. He has been a director of Fidelity from 2003?
Fidelity
Insurance Company from 2003.
2003, October 16.
And what is the indictment? What is the rationale for the indictment?
Fraud. As I said, they promoted, marketed, and implemented a fraudulent offshore tax strategy known as the Business Protection Plan.
And in your opinion, as a deputy premier of the Nevis Island administration in government, that you're calling on him to resign because of this?
Yes, fraud is a dangerous thing, but how do we maintain public trust in our officials? Our officials have to be above board, and people have left for less than this. I mean, in New York, just now you have someone running for the mayor of New York.
Yes.
Is under pressure to resign because of texting, because of sex texting. What you call it, Juni? Texting sex or whatever?
You call it right. Sex text.
Sex text.
Yes.
And then there's another scandal with the mayor of San Diego, Bob Filner, for disrespecting women. Come on. You can't have a deputy premier who can become a poster boy for fraud. No. It brings public life into disrepute, and it erodes the trust in the office of the public officials. What is it that makes people believe they can continue? Investor confidence too. Well, if you have a deputy premier who is down as somebody, as a director of a fraudulent company, what is it to prevent people from assuming that if they get into business with them, they will have a problem?
No, I just received a text, Hensley, in which Mr. Brantley is alleged to have told another radio station that he gave up his directorship of the company many years ago.
It does not matter. He was involved. It does not matter. The company set out to be fraudulent. So Julie, what am I supposed to be told now? That I was involved in fraud last year, 5 years ago, but I'm no longer in fraud now? Why wouldn't I be involved?
I see.
Why wouldn't I be involved? But who he tells that?
Yeah, he told that to a radio station.
The people who he came to ask to vote for him and say that he is the paragon of virtue. Huh? No, I don't want to know when he gave it up. The point is, he was connected with a fraudulent company based on the information here from Anguilla. And I tell you further, as Charles Wilkins says in his paper, the duties of common land statute are owed to the company by each director individually.
Okay.
The director cannot simply abandon the exercise of his duties and rely on the judgment of another director or directors.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Daniel. Is Mark Brantley's name on that indictment?
No.
His name is not on the indictment.
The company of which he's a director is named in the indictment. And one of the persons who is also a director, Dwayne Critchfield.
Critchfield and Donaldson.
Huh?
Critchfield and Donaldson.
Critchfield and Donaldson.
Yes.
They are named in the
indictment.
In the indictment.
Yes.
It's 4 companies, Juni. Let me just tell you the 4 companies.
Yes.
Alliance Holdings Company, domiciled in Nevis, West Indies, was promoted by the defendants as providing a wide range of international financial services to its subsidiaries and affiliated companies. Fidelity Insurance Company, this is the one of which he is the director, which was domiciled in the island of Anguilla, British West Indies, was promoted by the defendants as being compliant with U.S. tax code as well as insurance laws and regulations. Citadel Insurance Company, domiciled in Anguilla, and First Fidelity Trust, domiciled in Nevis. So there are 4 companies. So if you give up your directorship, Julie, you wash your hands. So suppose you have somebody who was trading, who was selling coke or marijuana, which are illegal products, and then they made some money and they invested in a hotel, a guest house, or
in a condo or something, yeah.
And then all of a sudden you say, hey, I have you down as somebody who used to run drugs. And you say,
well, I'm not doing it anymore.
I'm not doing it anymore.
Yes.
But hello, what happened to the benefits? Hello, how did you profit from it? And that's not enough. That's not enough because you see, Junie, we were in government, and I can speak like this because I left government and I came clean and left clean with the public. And the public must understand that this is not acceptable. I'll give you an example.
Yes.
Here is Transparency International. I'm sure which you're aware of. That's the international watchdog on corruption. Transparency International posted on the 14th of June 2013 says, under the topic, why we need to know who really own a company.
Yes.
Too many people have been able to hide behind a secret bank account far beyond the reach of justice. This is coming from Hewlett Labelle, the chairman of Transparency International. And he goes on. Today's bribe payers and corrupt officials, along with money launderers and tax evaders, can mask the source of illicit funds through concentric circles of shell companies which have no legitimate economic purpose or business operations. If you follow from the indictment, they said it was based on sham insurance. So how could a minister of government be involved in something which was based on a sham insurance premium and then say, well, I give it up a long time ago? So, but what's this? Now, you know, Juni, in the United States, they don't just let you go so. They pull you up from when you were even a schoolboy. I'm not prepared. I'm not doing that. I am prepared to let anything up until you're 18 years slide. But you're telling me that he must just say that he gave up the directorship after what? And why? And why? And after what? After the indictment began? And why was it set up? Knowing, based on this indictment, that it was based on sham insurance. Judy, all I'm saying is this: public trust in this business, this creates distrust and disgust in government. And it is very important for us to have at the top of our government people who can't tell you, who will not tell you, well, I used to be involved in this thing, but I'm not involved anymore. So, not that we are eliminating the need for forgiveness and moving on and so on and transitioning from one level of involvement to another. Not that. But here is somebody who has been in the media as the monarch of all we survey and as the only person who is qualified to be in government because of several other things, even the word integrity. You have a motion of no confidence. Now, Julie, let me ask the question. Why should people pay further attention to a motion of no confidence which was led by somebody who was involved in a company noted for fraud in the United States?
That's a good point.
How? Why should anybody want to listen? No, for me, when he speaks based on this and several other things, I pull out my hearing aid, like Dr. Eric Williams, because, Junie, here is somebody, bringing a motion of no confidence against the federal government, charging them with all kinds of things, and deciding to team up with enough people to be able to bring down the government. Well, you would think somebody who is doing all of this is lily white and squeaky clean. Not so.
Okay.
And why should people pay attention to the motion of no confidence when it is led by or one of the persons involved in its moving headed by somebody who is a director of a company which is being indicted for fraud in the United States? This can't be good, Juni.
Well, we will certainly get Mr. Mark Brantley to respond to the charges that you've leveled here this afternoon.
No, I have not leveled.
No. When I say okay, let me put it another way. Not the charges that you have leveled, but to respond to what you have raised on the program in relation to Mark Brantley being a director in a company which has been indicted for fraud.
Yes. And why should he remain in the government? He must go home because the young people of the country deserve better. The young people of the country are watching. You see, Julie, we can't continue to do one thing and say to the young people, do as I do, and don't watch no face, and then you do the same thing. No. And I am saying, because of the nature of this engagement, his position is untenable. It is untenable.
What do you intend to do, or what do you intend to do to raise and sensitize the people in Nevis about this? I mean, you've come on my talk show to raise the issue, and we're getting some feedback already. Huh?
I will do several other things.
Yes.
One of which will be to write to the Bar Association in St. Kitts and Nevis, the OECS Bar, to raise the question. And I have also, we have Transparency International here. We're going to write to them too and let them know that we have this. We want them to find a way to help us with this. How could he's not to be, can he be exonerated? Should he be exonerated? A director of a company which is now the center of an indictment for fraud? Julie, we are going to pursue several measures. I've just listed a few of those. But we don't believe that the people of Nevis would like to know that their deputy premier was involved in a fraudulent company.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for raising that issue this afternoon. We'll see how our callers and listeners out there would respond to this revelation that you've made here today, because I certainly was not aware of anything like this.
I raised it on Win FM's Inside the News. I even said, Julie, if any member of parliament and if anybody in the government has any sister, brother, or spouse, that they must resign because it's too close to comfort, that they must know. And, Julie, I take the view, if you should have known, you knew. So if he should have known, shouldn't he have known that this company was involved in fraud? Charles Wilkins' paper and governance says that the non-executive director must play an active role as a board member and cannot simply leave the decision-making and management of the company to the executive director. A director cannot simply abandon the exercise of his duties and rely on the judgment of another director or directors. And he speaks about the fiduciary responsibility. Company directors are entrusted with enormous resources, and their actions affect not only those persons, their shareholders who have entrusted their monies directly to them, but other stakeholders, including the venture holders, bond holders, lending banks, suppliers, and other creditors.
So, as a company director, he would have been in charge with the responsibility of the company's affairs.
That is what the legal requirements of a director say. That is what Charles Wilkins' paper here.
Your position is that even if he has given up the directorship of that company, he's still liable for what he received when he was there as the director.
Exactly. So it's not enough to say you give up, what you get from it, Julie. Julie, you believe anybody is going to be involved in a company and don't get something?
Okay.
You set up a company, and notice, you set up a company, and here is how the company was, here is one word. The way here on about August 19, 2005, the defendant Donaldson promoted the BTP strategy at a conference in the Bahamas, telling the attendees that, listen to this, the way our clients utilize the business protection plan is this. Each quarter, as they're doing their estimates, they realize that the dollars that they send to the IRS are going to be gone. Mm-hmm. The dollars that they send into the business protection plan, assuming no claims, are going to get 85% on the dollar back. And of course, when I do that myself, I will just as soon send it to the insurance company as to send it to the IRS. Now, Julie, hear this. You set up an insurance company, and they say that you will get back 85% of your premiums as long as you don't claim. Now, Julie, even when all of us who know about insurance, even when you are right, somebody hits your car when you're parked and you claim insurance, the insurance doesn't give you back the whole thing, and they raise your premium the next time, even though the fault was not yours, right? Well, how you get the insurance now to give you back 85% of your premium once you don't claim? That doesn't look funny?
Okay. All right. Hensley.
Yes.
I think you mentioned also off air that you wanted to raise some other issues.
Yes.
One issue in particular, this one in relation to Mr. Brantley, and the other one in relation to people you said who are still being let go by the Nevis Island administration.
Julie, this is very distressing. Mm-hmm. Very, very distressing. And I feel a deep sense. I feel a deep sense of pity for the people in the government. I really feel that as men and women, we are not to sink to that level. Here you have a fellow, Kenneth Liebert. He drives the bus for social development, beginning at 6 o'clock in the morning, picking up the senior citizens, picking up the women who cook the lunch for the senior citizens, dropping home we have the children in 3 programs, dropping them from Positive Moves, Boys Square, and Division Paul, dropping them home at afternoons, and finishes at 9 o'clock. His boss had to force him to take vacation, and you fire him. I don't even know that the man has ever been. I have been to all the political meetings that we have. I have never seen him anywhere in any political meeting, any shout, anything. In fact, they tell me his children are fierce supporters of the CCM, and you fire the man on the afternoon, leave a letter for him at the police station when he goes to put up the bus. I think these things are improper, and Mr. Amri and his cabinet must not continue to do this to the Nevis people. Carlos Vanterpool was in charge of the drug strip. He too is fired.
Okay.
Forbes, Hensley Daniel.
The first name you gave was who?
Huh?
The first name?
Kenneth Liebert.
Kenneth Liebert.
Carlos Vanterpool from the drug strip.
Carlos Vanterpool.
Drug strip manager. Lascom Forbes.
Lascom Forbes.
Hazel Dean Lewis. And Dwayne Warner from the London Housing Corporation.
And who? The last person?
Dwayne Warner. And then you have...
These people were let go over the weekend?
Over the weekend, last weekend.
Dwayne what?
Dwayne Warner. Yes. Mm-hmm. Then you have now... The board of directors of the Port Authority was constituted in April. And at its first meeting in May, it says, look, it is going to do away with the Human Resource Department because it needs to get rid of one person, Stevenson Manners. This is somebody who was humiliated by Mr. Amri in its previous government. He has a job at the Port Authority. They now say that they want to finish with the human resource. There are 100-odd people at the port. He's the human resource manager. The thinking in human resources, if you have any number more than 50, you should have a human resource manager. Of course, Nevlec has 80-odd workers. But What is worse, June, is that you're taking away the job from the division and you're going to put a non-national in charge of it. Now, those things can't sit well. And Junie, I read psychology. I used to read that when I was at university. And there's a huge psychology book in abnormal psychology. It is called the DSM-4. It is called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And the constant desire to cause pain and suffering to people is a mental disorder, And the government, led by the Premier, is showing that kind of mental disorder. If you follow what the constant desire to cause pain and suffering to people cannot be normal, you fire somebody, husband, and then you fire the wife. 2 weeks ago, early in February, you fire Spencer Hanley, and 2 weeks ago, you fire his wife. Derek Parry plays cricket for Nevis and West Indies, second man from Nevis to make West Indies team. You fire him, and then his daughter gets some assistance from the universe, from us, and you write to his daughter to say, no more assistance for you. So this is a form of mental disorder from the government. And I take great offense to this kind of behavior in a small country where all of us are related by blood. You can't continue to do this. And Mr. Amri needs to go into exile from Nevis. He needs to rid himself of Nevis. He brings a very dark cloud over the country. Very, very dark. Julie, these are hard times. You don't just go and fire people because you perceive them to vote NRP. And Julie, if everybody who is perceived to vote NRP voted NRP, we would have been in office. So it must mean that some of them voted CCM. Those very people who they think may have voted for us, some of them voted for them.
That is true.
So you can't continue this. And I don't understand. How is it that in Nevis you're going to make noise? I make this other point, Junior. You're going to make noise about violence in Nevis, right? And the government itself is committing violence against children and adults.
In what way?
Well, the lack of compassion, the lack of tolerance, the absence of forgiveness, the hatred, the malice, and the ill will, the absence of forgiveness, the desire for revenge, the absence of love. These are what constitute violence, Johnny.
Okay.
These are what constitute, and I am saying the government is guilty of all of these. These are the same elements that constitute violence among the youth. They lack compassion, they lack tolerance, there's the absence of forgiveness, the desire for revenge, and the hatred and the malice and the ill will.
All right. Hensley Daniel,
yes.
You have said quite a lot this afternoon, and I just got a call from Mr. Mark Brantley, and he wants to respond to what you're saying. So I'm going to give him a chance to respond, and you can always call me back.
Okay.
Sounds fair. All right. Thank you so much. That was Mr. Hensley Daniel there with some serious charges against both Mark Brantley and the CCM administration. Mark Brantley, according to Mr. Hensley Daniel, was the director of a company which has been indicted for fraud. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Junie.
I'm trying. Hold on one second here.
Okay.
I'm trying to get Mr. Mark Brantley. Mark Brantley?
Yes, I'm here.
Mark Brantley, good afternoon.
Junie, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You have taken me off my culture arm of festivities to respond to this nonsense that Hensley Daniel, my former teacher in school, is spewing on the airwaves.
Okay.
I had not myself decided to respond to Hensley. Frankly, I believe Hensley doesn't have the moral authority to speak to any matter so far as the public is concerned. Not with his record, not with him having the dubious distinction of being the only person that I'm aware of in the entire Caribbean region who has been found null and void by a court of law. Not Hensley. Let somebody else come. That messenger there, frankly, is not a messenger that we can accept on the airwaves of the Federation. Not somebody who even know is in the court fighting not to pay costs. And the court ordered him to pay. And I just put him on notice that I want my money, because he hasn't paid me yet. No.
What about this fraud charge that he said?
I'm getting
You're getting to that.
since he has raised this issue,
Yes, sir.
Hensley Daniel must understand, and quite frankly, Junior, at the end of the day, all that we have is our character.
Indeed.
All that we have is our reputation. We have nothing else. And for the likes of Hensley Daniel, a failed candidate over and over, a man whom the people of Nevis has rejected time and time and time again. And even when he forced himself on the people, the courts rejected him. For him to come on the air through insinuation, and I am telling you, Junior, and you normally would send me a program if I asked you, so I want you to send me the full program. Because I want to hear for myself the precise allegations that he would have made. Now, Hensley Daniel goes to Angola and finds down there a company that was formed in 2003.
Yes.
Called Fidelity Insurance.
Yes.
That company, I was a director, an initial director of that company. 3 directors, I was one of the 3. I took no part in the affairs of the company and resigned from my directorship, which the same records that he pulled would have shown him. Since 2006, I resigned from that company. Now in 2013, Juni, one of the original directors of that company, along with somebody else, another name that I'm not familiar with, are indicted in the United States on a single count of tax fraud. 1 count of tax fraud. And the companies mentioned, along with a slew, perhaps another 10 or 12 companies. And for those out there who want to read it for themselves, if they Google Duane, D-U-A-N-E, Critchfield, C-R-I-T-H-F-I-E-L-D.
Critchfield and Donaldson.
Well, I don't know, I'm not familiar with Donaldson so much, I know Critchfield.
Yes.
They can Google him and you see the entire indictment that is online. That indictment does not mention Mark Brantley. That indictment does not mention the other director, original director of that company. That indictment does not indict the company. It refers to the company only to the extent that it alleges that the company, along with others, were somehow involved and used by this individual and Donaldson to promote this particular policy that they were selling, something called a BPP policy. Now, how it is that I get involved, either with the sale of a BPP policy, or the promotion of it, or the indictment of Mr. Critchfield. Let me put it over this way, Judy. If you are director of the National Bank, okay, and the National Bank, somebody uses the National Bank for an illicit purpose, let's say money laundering, and that person is arrested and charged by the police, does that mean that Junie Liebert is complicit in some wrongdoing by an individual?
Not at all.
This is nonsense that they're seeking to get you and the public to believe. And I'm here to tell Hensley Daniel, I hope he's listening, that I am not going to sit by and allow the likes of him to tarnish my reputation. Not him. Perhaps somebody else I would say, well, here's somebody with some nobility and some dignity. But not Hensley. Hensley has lost any credibility that he might have once had. And this attempt now to smear, not by coming direct and saying exactly what he wants to say. Hear what he's saying. I should resign. Now you figure he can get into my seat that he hopped up for 18 null and void months by way of resignation? Telling me don't work, so you know. He has to come to the people and appeal to the people. That is what I did. And he must come and learn how to do that. So this nonsense that he's peddling, Judy, I am prepared to stand up anywhere and deal with it and deal with him head on. And since he likes courthouse, then perhaps we should go to the courthouse and he should tell the judge how it is that I am involved with any hint of criminal activity. Because if the United States decides to handle an indictment against an individual, I am yet to figure out how that involves Mark Brantley. That indictment being handed down in 2013. And they don't, you know, this intent to come and mislead and to smear and to tarnish people. And then he has the heart to talk about our government and the attitude of our government to people.
Let me.
I'm puzzled by this approach.
Let me let me get something. Let me get something clear here, Mark Brantley. He also said that okay, you're no longer a company director, but that does not absolve you of any wrongdoing that might have been committed during the time that you served as a director.
But Juni, who committed wrongdoing? That is the question, you know.
Okay.
The person who is alleged to have committed wrongdoing has been charged.
Right.
So who else is he saying? So the example I'm using, again, I mean, no disrespect, of course, to the National Bank. I'm just using that as an example.
Yes.
If you are a director on the board of National Bank, and somebody were to charge another director, some nearly 8 years after you would have resigned as a director, how does that involve you?
Okay.
I have looked at the indictment. The indictment runs to 9 pages. As I said, I've given you the to Google that you get it on Google. It is nothing that...
could you just give out that information again to Google where?
Well, the gentleman is called Dwayne, D-U-A-N-E, Fields, C-R-I-T-H-F-I-E-L-D. And if anybody can Google that and tell me they see my name mentioned, or any of the other directors' names mentioned, it's almost as if they're saying, well, listen, once you are associated with this company, then all who are associated with it at any point in time are responsible for what is alleged against one person. I mean, that is foolish.
So as far as you're concerned, your hands are clean and you have nothing to hide, basically. That's what you're saying. Yes, sir.
Not only that, but where we go to vindicate these matters is under the clock.
Yes.
And I like to go there. Right?
Right.
That is my area. I like to go there. So if Hensley has more money to pay me on top of the cost that he owes me, then we can go there.
All right.
No. Hensley Daniel. I have photographs of Hensley plastered all across the internet, posing with a Dr. Porter, a gentleman that he brought here, hugging up, and said that the gentleman was going to set up some cancer clinic, and was associated with the gentleman. I was surprised the other day to find that his friend was extradited, fleeing from the U.S. government, found him somewhere in South America, extradite him to the States where he's now facing serious criminal charges. Now, should I, on that basis, indict Hensley as well? I mean, you see, we have to be careful. Where are we going with this?
Like if you dig one hole, dig two.
No, where are we going with this? Because this is the kind of rubbish that is passing for public debate when they're not offering and have no ideas to offer the people of Nevis, because every time they've come, the people have rejected them. The next time Hensley call in, ask him how many elections he has run in Nevis and how many he has won. Ask him. He has the most dubious distinction of a politician, and he can't seem to be able to appeal to the people of Nevis, the electorate of Nevis. So he takes to the airwaves to spew the venom, the hate, the vengeance. And what, against me? He taught me in school. If I beat him at the polls, it must be he and his good teaching that I'm now using to appeal to people. So what is he so upset about? Tell Hensley.
All right.
I will not be resigning. And if he wants this seat...
He said he was going to take this to the OECS, the local bar commission.
He could take it to the United Nations. I don't have to go so far. I'm going to take it under the clock. That's what I'm going to... I like to take things there. So I don't have to go so far. And let him explain exactly what he says the allegation is. Talking about I'm involved in fraud. In my life, I've been a lawyer for nearly 20 years. Nobody has ever been so bold to make those kinds of allegations against me.
Okay.
And that is the concern I have, because they seek to sully and destroy people's character to bring me down to his level. I'm not going there with him, you know. I am not going there. I am Juni concerned with running the country. You see all this? It's what we call distraction. Nevis right now is a buzz with Culturama. The biggest, best festival we've seen in years. People are coming out in their numbers. He and all should come out, because it seems to me he has a lot of venom in him. He needs to vent. Maybe go on the long jump. Just before you get back to Culturama, I know you're the Minister of Culturama. I just wanted to get your response to, you mentioned some names of people who had been terminated, NRP. He mentioned Carlos Vanterpool, Kenneth Liebert, Lascom Forbes, Hazel Dean Lewis, and Dwayne Warner as recent victims of the CCM axing. But Junie, I mean, realignments in the civil service and in the public sector are made all the time. I do not know these people. He says they're unhappy.
Yes.
I got in on the tail end and he said he don't know who people vote for, so I'm curious that he knows they're unhappy.
Okay.
But the bottom line is, and let me since I'm on with you and everybody is listening to you, because of course you know you have the attention of the world when you're on.
Thank you, sir.
Let me just give me half a minute, Junie.
Go right ahead.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah. All right. It's just about 18 minutes after 2 o'clock. Some very interesting comments there from.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Let me just read something to you, okay?
Yes, sir.
We have a fella called, I want when Mr. Daniel calls the next. I asked him for me if he know a fella called Pete Broadbelt, Lovell Jones, George Hicks, Todd Lescott, Eugene Stapleton, Clem Selkridge, Robert Woodley, Henry Cozier, Pablito Hanley, Curtis Hanley, Fulmore Frank, Michael Dusty Smith, Kathleen Cranston, Antonio Brown, Austin Collar, Karen Amory, Eastron Powell, Caldy Sage, Anthony Boren, Frank Fifield, George Kelly, Akima Walwyn, Morris Brook, Alexis Libers, Michelle Drew, Alton Amory. You tired yet?
You're giving me the list of 40 names that you submitted to another station.
Stedway Sutton, Steve Glasgow, Randy Anderson, Sylvester Maynard, George Weeks, Percy Maynard, Devon Nisbet, Rohit Ugra, O'Neill Walters, Dave Nakishore, Sutton Powell, Clarence Jeffers, and Raymond.
Hello, you there? All right, we seem to have lost Mark Brantley on the line, but we certainly appreciate him calling and giving us his response to what Hensley Daniel had said. One of the questions I had here lined up for the Honorable Mark Brantley was the reason why he would have resigned from that company back in 2006. I think he said that he was part of the company from 2003, and then a couple of years later he resigned in 2006. And one wanted to ask Mr. Mark Brantley what was the reason that he resigned from that company. It is now 20 minutes after 2 o'clock. The lines are busy. So we're going to go straight to the lines and hear what our callers and listeners are saying. Good afternoon.
Junie.
Yes.
Mark Brantley as...
Who is this?
The Honorable... I'm calling from Nevis.
Yes.
As the Honorable Roberto Hector described him, a bag of mouth. First of all, Hensley Daniel did not say his name was called or written in the indictment.
No, he didn't say that.
Okay? Hensley Daniel is saying that here is an indictment in the States that includes the companies that he was a director of.
That is what he said, yes.
During the time the indictment is speaking about, the indictment itself speaks from 2003 up until 2008, which includes the time frame that he was a director.
Oh, I see what you're saying. The time frame was 2003 to 2008.
Read the indictment.
And he was a director of the company from 2003 to 2006. He said he was...
Exactly. And he just said that he resigned 2006.
Yes.
Now the indictment speaks specifically to the date 2003 in or about... This is what the direct words of the indictment is saying. In or about 2003 and onwards up to 2008, including 2008. So that time frame, he would have been a director. Now, you're not saying that the indictment called his name, but...
Say his name is not in the indictment.
It's not in the indictment.
Right.
But if you read the indictment, the words are saying Critfield and Donaldson, the two who are charged. And the indictment also said, along with others known and unknown to the grand jury. Now, we don't know who the unknown is, but the point is... So
are you saying that Mr. Brantley is guilty by association?
I am not saying that. All that I'm saying is, do not put words in my mouth.
No, I'm just asking you. I'm asking you. I'm not saying...
I'm answering you.
Okay.
Give me a second. I'm answering you. All that I'm saying is, during the time the indictment speaks to specifically, he was a director then of the company that is included in the indictment. That's all Mr. Daniel is saying, which is correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that with us, caller from Nevis. Let's take some more calls here on issues. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Johnny, it's Mark Brantley.
Welcome back, sir.
I'm sorry, I got cut off. And
Yes.
I just wanted to just finish by saying that the names that I called were all people terminated by the NRP. Was it political? I don't know. They said they were restructuring.
Mm-hmm.
So you mean they had a right to restructure the service and send home those 40-odd people? I don't have a full list, but that's a partial listing that I have. But we as a government do have a right.
Okay, we seem to have lost that call by Mark Brantley. Let's hope he will call back. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hey, good afternoon to you, Juni.
Good afternoon, sir.
And good afternoon to your listeners home and abroad. Juni, this conversation is very interesting. You know?
It is, yes.
And it clearly shows us how politics can turn people into monsters. I still have respect for Mr. Hensley Daniel, I must admit to you. However, the last caller, Juni, said something. If you're not going to accuse Mr.
Brantley?
No.
Mr. Daniel?
No.
Who?
The deputy leader for Nevis.
Mr. Brantley?
Mr. Brantley.
Yes.
Because clearly you're saying his name is not there, but you're making allegation and suggestion as to indicate, because he was a director of the company, he may very well be one of those known or unknown person.
Yes.
That is how the conversation going here this afternoon, you know.
Yes, it is.
And I'm not going to be fooled by that. And so if you're going to tell me that is not the way you're leading up to what you're saying, it is a lie. But Joni, I'll lead you on to something now, you know. Because Mr. Daniel talked about motion of no confidence that the leader of the opposition in the federal parliament brought, and he should discontinue with that and talk about public integrity. So let us talk about public integrity and allegations. Joni, would Mr. Daniel hold the lead of Labour to the same standards as he wants to hold Mr. Brantley? How about Lex Consulting? How about a check that was written for $95,000 and the leader of Labour denied of such a check, but then come back and admit to it? Look at the hypocrisy. Hear what he said, you know, that those who use psychology to punish and cause pain to people are considered or could consider as mental disorder, persons with mental disorder. Those are strong words, Joni. And if anyone had used those words about the Honorable Prime Minister or anyone else in their political party, they would have took them to task for it.
Okay, I think Mark Brantley is trying to get back in on the line here.
Bring him back in.
Let me try and get him back. Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. Okay, we seem to have missed that one. Hello, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Julie.
Yes.
Edinburgh here.
I could hardly hear you.
Okay, are you hearing me now?
Very weakly.
All right, let me see.
Hello, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hi, Johnny. I keep getting cut off. This is Mark Brantley.
Yes.
I apologize for that.
Sure.
I was just making the point about government reorganization.
Mm-hmm.
That governments, as far as I know, do that. The NRP did it, and we have done some of it as well. I do not know that what they did, they could not do, and what we have done, we could not do. So I do not understand this particular argument, and Mr. Daniel and whoever, because I don't know who the spokespeople are. Now, what I do notice, Juni, that somebody called in after, I know the voice well, but I won't call in it, to say that he's not saying this, and he's not saying that. You see how quick they start to back away from the allegations? And that is what I'm saying, you know, that we must be careful what we go on the public medium to say. That we don't say things, and at the end of the day, we hang our hat till we can't reach it.
He mentioned that the indictment was for the period 2003 to 2008, during that time.
I have read the indictment. The indictment, in fact, speaks to 2001
Okay.
to 2008.
2000, okay.
That's what it speaks to.
Mm-hmm.
But the indictment does not indict the company.
I see.
Indictment against the company, no. That is it. That is the thing. The indictment speaks to someone who happened to have been a director of that company.
So when you resigned from the company back in 2006, I beg your pardon, were you aware of any wrongdoing during that time?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I was never involved. I was named as a director of the company, but never involved in the affairs. As a matter of fact, that's why I resigned.
Yes.
Because I was put there as a nominee director, and my name stayed there, and I said, well, this didn't make any sense because I was not involved with the company. So I resigned my directorship in 2006
Yes.
as the director of that company. And the same files that they have pulled from Anguilla will show them that. But of course, when they're making the claim, they forget that bit of information. The company has not been indicted. One individual who was a director of that company has been indicted nearly 8 years after I resigned in 2013. And it's a single count indictment, as I said, speaking to the sale of some insurance policy that the IRS now alleges was fraudulent. That is what this hullabaloo is about. And this effort now to get at me, and more so, Hensley Daniel, a messenger of the more...
All right, we have lost Mark Brantley again, Deputy Premier from Nevis. It's 2:29. Let's take a short commercial break and come back with more of your calls on issues.
Did you set every alarm clock in the entire house?
10 o'clock! 10 o'clock! The new Pick 3, Pick 4 draws at 10 o'clock! Gotta go!
Play the new 10 a.m. Pick 3, Pick 4 draw, giving you even more chances to win. It's your extra chance to win up to $400 on Pick 3 and up to $4,000 on Pick 4 with just a $1 bet. Now there are 4 draws a day at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 6 p.m., and 9 p.m. So play the new 10 a.m. Pick 3, Pick 4 draw from the Caribbean Lottery.
Let's do lunch. Stonewall Bar and Grill on Princess Street is open daily from 11 a.m. and serves lunch. Try the soup of the day, or a healthy salad, a specialty sandwich, or a Big Paul, the burger with all the works. Enjoy the fish and chips, or the ribs or chicken platter served with your choice of sides. Bring a friend and share the lunch for 2. Or better yet, bring lots of friends and enjoy the table buffet for 4. At Stonewall's, the food is great, location is convenient, and the prices make sense. Call 766-1893 for takeouts. Stonewall's Bar and Grill, Princess Street. Open from 11 a.m. Monday through Saturday. Stonewall's, where friends meet.
Let's do lunch. Let's do lunch. Let's do lunch. Let's do lunch.
It is just about 2:30. And we're going to go up until 3 o'clock. Very, very interesting dynamics on the show this afternoon. And we're going to go back to the telephone and see if we could get back Hensley Daniel on the phone. Good afternoon.
Well, it's not Hensley Daniel. Are you hearing me, Juni?
Yes, I'm hearing you better now, Austin.
Okay. Now, let me just say that this matter was first raised on Freedom FM and Freedom Talk on Wednesday night. And I do have copies of the indictment, hard copies, and I do have copies of the Articles of Incorporation in which the Honorable Mark Brantley was named as a director. And I'm speaking from St. Kitts because he is the leader of the opposition, and he is purports to be part of some construct that is wanting to govern St. Kitts and Nevis. And that is where my concern is. And my concern is he has been speaking about integrity. And whether or not he is named in the indictment is not the issue. He knows that Fidelity Trust, of which he was a director, is being investigated in that same indictment, and its name would come up in the hearing. He also knows that he was a director, and until it was raised by the people who had the information, he did not speak to it, and even after, because it was first raised about 2 weeks ago, and he treated the people with disregard and disrespect, and this afternoon he comes on dancing a really good tango and trying to talk about Hensley Daniel. The issue is that I don't believe that Mark Brantley, the Honorable Mark Brantley, has the credibility to lead a motion of no confidence or to even speak on a motion of no confidence until he has given clear information with respect to his involvement with the person under the company that is being involved in an indictment of fraud in the United States of America. Had it been the Prime Minister, he, the Honorable Mark Brantley, would have been calling on the Prime Minister to resign. And I have no doubt about that. And for those who are talking about Lex Consultant, well, I would like them to tell me where was Lex Consultant indicted. Because if Lex Consultant was indicted for fraud, anything of the sort, and the Prime Minister was a director of the company, I would join the call for him to resign or explain. As I am now saying that the Honorable Mark Brantley failed. He failed in his responsibility to bring it to the attention of the public even before Hensley Daniel had any information on it, because he knew that the period over which the company has been involved or named was the time when he was a director of the company. That is the important thing. And what did he gain? Did part of his remuneration come from the fraud? We don't know. It is very possible because he was paid. Whether he did or was involved, he was paid as a director. What was he paid for? If according to him he was doing nothing, was he paid for doing nothing? Because if you're being paid for doing nothing, gee, and you don't find that to be highly suspicious, well, I don't think you have the credibility to want to be in government and to be in government. And so he owes the country an explanation. That is all I'm saying. He owes the country an explanation. And until he can remove that cloud from over his head and the country, he has no moral credibility to lift a motion of no confidence in a government. Because they're saying that because lands were put in trust of National Bank, that is enough reason for which the Prime Minister should resign. Because he did that transparently through Parliament, that is enough reason for the Prime Minister to resign. But for the Honourable Mark Brantley to be involved in some sham and to have been keeping it from the attention of the public is not good enough for people to talk about. Well, who's spinning and who is hypocritical? That's a question I would like to ask them.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Austin Edinburgh, for weighing in on this matter this afternoon. Thanks for the call. All right, it's 2:35. We're going to go back and take some more of your calls. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Julie.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Mr. Brantley called from names, right?
Yes.
Went home in NRP time.
Yes.
But Mr. Brantley didn't tell you. Some of them walk off the job. 2006, they ain't voting for NRP. They ain't working under NRP. They got my house to work now.
They walked off the job.
They walk off the job.
I see.
Public Works, two of them walk off the job at the garage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? 2011 election, the first name that he called, Pete, he was the one. An election day 2011, he leave work 12 o'clock to go on lunch for 1 hour. And you know when he reached back to work? 5 minutes to 4. And he finished work at 4. Those are what was going on. So they had to go home. They wanted to say, no, they are restructuring. So NRP mustn't say anything, you must go home. Julie, I heard Mark Brantley ask you a question about if Hensley Daniel had said about Kenneth. And you said yes. But Mark Brantley don't know Kenneth. Last week, when you asked Mr. Brantley if he don't know anything about it, Kenneth is in Mark Brantley's ministry. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for sharing that with us from Nevis. Let's go back and take some more calls at 2:37. Good afternoon.
I'm going to finish up quickly, Junie.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had to get cut off from Mark. Junie, now Edinburgh called in, and he seems to always come in with some skimpy counter-attack. And I asked the question again. Would he hold the leader of Labour at the same standards that he wants to hold Mark Brantley at? And he said no, literally said no. And look how he buffing, trying to get out, because I believe you were at a news conference sometime when a question was asked about a check amounted to some $75 million. When the leader of Labour said he don't know about the check, he has a son named like him, and then come back to admit, yes, the check was written in his name. I mean, what kind of hypocrisy is this by Edinburgh and them? Want to hold me to one standard. And then when the leader of Labour come and lie and deceive people, then he must get away with it. Hyper-hypocrisy. Have a nice day, Junie.
Have a nice day yourself. It's 2:38. We're going on till 3. The numbers to call to get you on the air are 662-1065 or 465-6474. 465-6474 or 662-1065. No other number will get you on the air. Let's try this one. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yeah, Junie, good afternoon. I'm not talking about this court matter, but last week I heard on one of your news items that Mark was saying that the CCM campaign are increasing airlift into Nevis, and they're doing that. I think that was on your news broadcast.
Yes.
Well, my name is Sean Springett. I identify myself, and I tell you why. I was a director of Nevis and support in the NRP administration. Last year, 9th March 2012, I, along with the acting manager of NASPA, the tourism advisor, Mr. Alistair Yearwood, and the airport manager met with the president of Tradewinds Aviation. Now, from the onset of that meeting, we were told that this company was a high-end luxury company that really caters for the high-end customers, like those who go to Four Seasons, to offer an on-demand service to St. Thomas, San Juan, and to St. Bart's. Now, what Tradewinds wanted from Nevis was permission to make Nevis another one of their hubs as they expand throughout the Caribbean. At the end of the meeting, Mr. Libert, we pretty much had come to an agreement of approval. All that had to be done was for myself and the acting GM to report back to the board and get the board's approval for this, and for the tourism advisor, Mr. Yarwood, to update Mr. Parry on this. Now, Tradewinds was supposed to begin this service last year, in the last quarter of 2012. However, with the continuing downturn in the economy, they decided to discontinue starting end of last year until when the economy begins to pick back up. Now, when I heard Mr. Brantley say that this was a campaign promise that has been fulfilled by increasing airlift, all I can say to Mr. Brantley is that he is a liar. I was a director, and under the NRP administration, with Mr. Parry as the Minister of Tourism, this was something that was already guaranteed. The reason why they're not...
So this is just a fulfillment, a reality of that vision.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They decided not to start last year because the economy was not where they wanted to go. They're a high-end. They're not a scheduled carrier like Liat.
Understand.
So when Mr. Brantley is coming on your radio, and I could understand why people are calling and questioning Mr. Brantley, because when he says some things, you have to question whether if it's true or not. He's trying to take credit for things that does not belong to him. What Mr. Brantley needs to take credit for is the 200 people that have been fired in the past 5 months. He listed out some names of people that were fired under NRP. Mr. Leber, you run a business. Before you had Freedom, you had a store. Over a period of years, there will be people that would come, and there are people that will go. Some people go because of rudeness, because of whatever the case may be. Yes, sometimes you have to restructure. But ask Mr. Brantley if those people were fired in the first 5 months of NRP. They weren't. But under this administration, in the past 5 months, 200 and something people fired because they support NRP. And this is something, Mr. Leber, I put in this on you. You're a journalist. These are things that you have to question. Win FM did some kind of
investigative journalism.
Yeah, but what they did, they interviewed those people who were fired. They spoke to Mark, and Mark said that it is not true, and they dropped it.
Okay.
These people still exist. And Mr. Leber,
I got some names here from Hensley Daniel of people who were let go over the weekend, but Mr. Brantley is unaware of the names.
I can email you copies of these letters.
Can you do that?
I can do that because he wants to deny it. Here you have Kenneth. Kenneth was sent to Cotton Ground Police Station with the bus and told to turn in the keys and given a letter. But Monday morning he was replaced with another driver. You can't be doing these kind of things in this kind of country. Nevis is too small for this. It is ridiculous what is going on here. And back to this aviation thing, Mr. Brantley I remember one time he came and he said that Winnie was doing up to 7 flights a day. We are the flights. They've been in government for almost 6 months now. We are the flights. We are Leah 3 and 4 flights. So he said that we mustn't bang water to go to St. Kitts. We are the flights. I don't know where he gets so much time to be on the radio. If Nevis is broke, if Nevis is in such a predicament, where does he get so much time to be on the radio morning, noon, and night and still have a radio show on a Wednesday night? But all they're doing is just firing people. And Nevisians need to rise up. It is unfair that Nevisians, whether you're NRP or CCM, should suffer this kind of consequence because this is just it is unthinkable. And I don't think nobody would ever have thought that Nevis would have turned to something like this. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for weighing in and making that contribution this afternoon from the island of Nevis.
Your email address is on the website?
You could send it to Freedom Radio 1065 at Yahoo. That's Freedom Radio 1065 at Yahoo. And copy Juni at freedomskn.com. That's JUNI at freedomskn.com.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right, thank you so much. It's just about 2:44 as we go back to the telephone and take some more of your calls. Good afternoon, caller. You're on Issues. Caller, you there? All right, we seem to have missed that mobile caller. Let's take another call here. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Thank you, Juni. Good afternoon. I was the first to get into your show this afternoon.
Yes, you were.
You started to talk about culture, man.
And then I ended up speaking. Well, Mr. Hensley Daniel called to address a very significant and important issue.
It could be significant, Mr. Labor. But
all right, you want to weigh in now with yours before we go into this preamble. Let's talk about what you want to talk about now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to find out from you, right? Where do political parties get money from to campaign and things of that nature?
You tell me.
I have an idea, but I believe...
Well, they get monies from the private sector. We know that the private sector contribute to the political parties here, the private business organizations. They raise funds. They get contributions from individuals. And other places, I guess. But I believe in the main it comes from financial contributions from organizations and individuals.
But aren't the candidates the ones who go out and try to seek donation for the party?
I think the party does that. And then,
well, if the candidates are part of it, why, is it that a person who leaves the party should pay back? Or you blame them for leaving the party because they use campaign financing? This particular person probably got $1 million or $500 donation because of who they are. Not necessarily because it's Mark Labour Party, because if you put a Labour Party or Jackie Party there and put an envelope there, nobody's going to put anything in it. You have to have a representative. And if a representative go out and he
solicit funds, yes.
Yeah, well, this thing that we are always coming up with all sort of stuff to say to discredit people, I think it's unfair. It is totally unfair.
All right.
But, we realize that is a last try. And this thing about what you're talking about, not discrimination, but termination of people, victimization.
Yes.
I have something I want to put on it, but I don't think we have the time this afternoon because this victimization thing is not really victimization. It is a matter of doing the right thing. You had over a period of years where people were sent to offices here in Nevis and said,
if 100, 200 people are laid off, you don't call that victimization?
No, I would say, right, if you have 20 people in an office, which you just stuck up because this party was told, people were told to go to certain offices and just work. The manager don't know about it, so they had to be head there. And these people were there for a number of years doing nothing. And the reason why they were there was just to stack up the payroll and doing nothing. So when the party reached and I realized, listen, I have 10 people here doing a job that one person could do, you have to find out what you get rid of them. Because as I said, it is a period of years where these people were stacked up on government payroll for nothing, just because they were particular, appointees of the government. And when we address that and we find out why so many people are doing that job that one person could do, you realize that you have to let them go. And however you have to let them go, you have to let them go. And if you want to call it victimization, that is it. But, as Mr. Brantley said, he gave the number of names of people who were terminated. He said he don't know whether it's victimization or not. But it happens.
All right, caller, thank you so much for weighing in on that. And that takes our time to 2:48. We're going to just take one more call before we take a short break. Good afternoon, you're on the air.
Juni, I think we're making a mistake here.
Mm-hmm.
During the years, okay, let me ask you a question, Juni. What time would you say the recession started worldwide?
Boy, probably about a decade ago. I would say as far as back as that, 5 to 10 years ago.
Okay. That means about 2003.
Right.
Let's say give or take
2 years. Yes.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Come forward. When would you say it reached the peak when it was the worst?
Boy, that had to be about 4 or 5 years ago, I would think.
Thank you very much. The reason why I asked you those questions, Juni, is because here are people making the comparison between the previous NRP government sending our home people. That was because they were under IMF watch.
Mm.
And so people were let go from different departments, different ministries on occasions when the IMF would come down and whatever else. I mean, things were really hard then. Nothing was going on. Now the country is on a well, I shouldn't say, I don't even know about the country, but at least the recession is according to all indicators from the experts, it's on its way back up from the recession.
Yes. So what is the point you're making here, caller?
The point is, if during that time NRP was turning away people, during this time, now the recession is over, there shouldn't be any firing.
Well, one caller just said a while ago that if people are being let go, it's not victimization. I don't understand that kind of reasoning, but you're making the point that what?
I am making the point
that things are better now, so nobody should be let go.
It is simple. Well, they haven't even pointed to the fact that it might be because of the downturn in the economy.
Yes.
But I am telling you the reason why NRP had to let go of certain people. When, for example, at the port, I think somebody just calling who was a director at the port.
Correct.
Talking about the fact that
the airlift.
The airlift and
yes.
so on. There were times when there were 1 or 2 flights over at the airport, Juni. I mean, why would you have a staff of over 40-something over at the airport when you ain't got 10 people going out in a day? Does that make sense? And so there was a point when I heard the Premier said that you had to have just the minimum that the FDA had, not the FDA, the Federal Aviation Authority. There's a limit to how much people you can have in terms of the least amount of people you can have at the airport. So people had to be laid off from the ports. And so that is the point I'm making. Back then, when people were laid off, it was because of the economical situation. The IMF was here going through everything.
And now you're saying that now there's no justification for it.
That's what I'm that's what I'm saying.
All right, caller, I want to thank you so much for weighing in on that. It's just about 2:51. Short commercial break. Back with more issues.
Do you need a loan but can't deal with too much hassle and stress? Well, come on into the Syndicate Cooperative Credit Union and you can borrow up to $15,000 with no initial deposit. Yes, no initial deposit. What? Sounds too good to be true? Call and make an appointment. 466-2272, 465-9014. Or you can simply walk into the branch office on New Street or come to the headquarters at Bladen's Commercial Development and we'll be happy to talk to you. Borrow up to $15,000 with no initial deposit. The Syndicate Cooperative Credit Union. The best place to save. The best place to borrow.
We are family.
From you want energy, well we got the right remedy. Run go tell Beverly and Kenny say a full throttle, we got for everybody. Well you talking and gear one and nothing nah happen. Simba will tell you fi hold a full throttle. Your girlfriend a wait and nothing nah happen. Simba will tell you go hold a full throttle. You yes you full throttle. 16 ounce of raw energy. We have different flavors and each one tastes fine. Distributed by Sake's Bottling Company.
All right, it's just about just about 2:52. We're going to go back to the line. Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon, Juni.
Hensley Daniel, welcome back.
Yes, thank you so much. You know, Juni, just very, very briefly, just a few things quickly. One, when I speak on any radio, I speak with the information. As I told you, I was quoting and reading information from the indictment. Mr. Brantley can squeal like a pig. I have said what is written in the indictment, okay? Further, when I call on the radio station, I don't go to the personal attacks. He didn't explain to you his involvement with the company. He speak about my involvement in elections and get very personal and so on. That is the level at which they are accustomed.
He said he was a director of the company from 2003 to 2006, 3 years, and then he resigned.
Right, but the indictment is from it covers the same period.
That's correct.
The indictment covers the same period.
Yes.
All we are seeking to find out is to explain his engagement with the company. And that if a company of which you are a director is indicted and associated with fraud, why not? Why not raise questions? Why not raise questions about somebody who holds a public office? Those are not intended to get personal. I don't have the time to get personal. You notice he says I taught him. I never say that. I never ever say that. Never ever say that. I also want to say, Juni, that in relation to what the case before us suggests, that the company, as I read before you, it says that they promoted, marketed, and implemented a fraudulent offshore tax strategy known as the Business Protection Plan.
Tax evasion.
Tax evasion.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. That you have a company, and he was a director of one of them. Well, what is wrong? We shouldn't say so. We shouldn't bring it to the public. Did he tell you about it before I raised it? Did he make the public aware of it? As I read from you, as I read to you from what Charles Wilkins says, that the duties of a director cannot simply abandon the exercise of his duties and rely on the judgment of another director or directors. This is Charles Wilkins and his on a paper on governance. All I'm saying, Juni, is when I come to you, I give you the facts, and I don't come to get personal. I never do that. And this has nothing to do with taking part in elections and who won and who lost. And if I were to speak to the last election, the most fraud was committed in that election in 2013 because people who were fraudulently registered to voted. And in the previous election in 2011, they were not entitled to vote because, as C.J. Ground, the Chief Justice in the Turks and Caicos Islands, wrote in a case similar, before you could say a man is disenfranchised, you have to first establish that he had a right to be there. So the persons who were taken from the voters list had no right to be registered there. Now, if you run an election and you get elected by fraudulent voters, I suppose anybody can claim that anybody would be comfortable with that. I am not comfortable with that. So, Julie, on the question of victimization, I heard some one of the callers say that victimization is not victimization. It's okay. And I think you said you couldn't understand that reasoning either.
Yes.
Somebody called in to say that the victimization is okay. How could it be okay, Julie, when you just send home people? People are working, there is no complaint against them. There is nobody making any complaint that they are not performing their duties. And you send them home, and that is okay with our society? That doesn't seem right to me, Junie.
Indeed.
No. And we come to a political process. We come to a political process. And we have our character to put on the line. And I was listening to hear Mr. Brantley say what charge he found. Because in the same court case, he, in his deposition, wrote to the court to say, when the court said that I should pay fees, of which he says I owe him, he wrote to the court to say it was a mistake. And the court has already agreed that it was a mistake for us to pay costs when in fact we were not charged with anything. It's the strangest kind of judgment, Junie, where a judge...
So you owe Mr. Brantley nothing?
Nothing, because I wasn't charged with anything.
Mm-hmm.
The court of Appeal judge says that we should have been charged with misconduct and bad faith, Mr. Parry and I, in the preparation of the voters list. The preparation of the voters list. Now, where is it that Mr. Parry and I were involved in the preparation of the voters list? And so, when we put in the appeal against the court, he, in his deposition, despite all the squealing and the jumping around, said to the court that it was a mistake, and the court is to consider whether it is a mistake. So I don't owe him anything as far as I'm aware. Let the court decide. Further, Junie, what is worrisome, Junie, is that when we bring matters to the public, we are so easy to get off into the personal. A few weeks ago I said to you, when the politicians come, including myself, ask us about programs, not slogans. And you listening to Mr. Brantley, there are about 10 slogans, 15 slogans, nothing to program. And I'm saying that when I come to the process, I really speak to what is happening in the country. To argue that ordinary poor black people in this country shouldn't work because they are perceived to be CCM is wrong, very, very wrong. And for anybody to endorse that is callous. It's callous disregard of basic human rights. The right to work is fundamental. The right to live and work is fundamental. And the right to raise questions about the integrity of public officials is pretty much well enshrined in the Constitution, Junie. If you, as a radio host, can't raise questions about something you see which doesn't look very clear to you, why are we in business? If you have an indictment going on and you have a company being indicted for fraud, and you have someone who is a director of the company serving in the government, why can't you ask them to resign until they give you proper explanation as to why? Why can't you do that? What is wrong with that? What is wrong with that? What is wrong with raising questions about people's personal integrity? If you could see, and if it is in the minds of people, something is wrong. How could you then say you resigned after 3 years, Junie? 3 years, Resigned after 3 years with the company. If I didn't bring it this afternoon, would he have told you in one of his talk shows? Would he have said so? No. And nothing is wrong with going down that line. Nothing is wrong with raising questions and finding out the nature of the involvement. I think I heard him say he wasn't involved. Okay, fine. But the involvement of the company is well established in the indictment. Of one of the armed persons who is a director of the company, and it says that Fidelity Insurance Company had issued and did not establish reserves for insurance losses under the BPP policy. That, Junie, I wish we could take some of the emotion out of politics. I don't use it for political reasons. I simply say that the desire to cause harm and inflict harm and pain on people is a mental disorder. And I am going to stick with that because I see it too evident and too obvious in the government.
All right. Hensley Daniel.
Yes.
I want to thank you so much for sharing. I know in the upcoming days we'll continue to explore this issue because it is something that people are concerned about, both here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and beyond. We will continue to do some investigative journalism about this accusation, this fraud indictment, and about the laying off of workers on the sister island of Nevis, known NRP supporters, who, as you say, have been let go. You gave me a name, some 5 names to go along to buttress your argument.
Yes.
So we'll continue to look into that, and in the days and weeks ahead, we'll continue to share with our listeners the views or findings and weigh in on these issues and have other people call in to discuss these matters. That's what it's all about.
True, Junie, because
we have to shed some light and transparency on these matters.
As I said, I have a paper from one of our local legal luminaries, Charles Wilkin QC. He wrote about what directors should know. I have some information from Transparency International. I didn't come here this afternoon to say that, to accuse Mr. Brantley of anything, you know. I'm sure you understood me to say that. I said that the company of which he's a director, the company is under scrutiny in the United States. And how does that sit with, how does that sit with us? How does that sit with us?
Yes.
And nothing is wrong with raising those issues, Junior.
Nothing is wrong with that.
I am sure.
Because these people are in the public domain and have to give some accountability for the actions or lack of action.
Right.
So,
and if the public decides that they figure that you have a case to answer, or if the public figures that they are not satisfied with enough of that, the way to respond to it is not to begin to cuss and not to begin to be abusive.
You know, one of the things that this is all leading up to is perhaps in the upcoming elections we could have a series of debates on some of these fundamental issues that face the general public, face the electorate. And we're going to be looking forward to having that kind of debate and that level of dialogue in the weeks ahead.
So that he has pictures of me with Dr. Porter. I am not aware of that. I am not aware of that.
Say it's all on Facebook.
Bill, I am not aware of that. Of my involvement with Dr. Porter? No, all I'm saying, Junie, I want anybody to bring hard, incontrovertible evidence that Hensley Daniel was involved in any hanky-panky, either before, during, or after government. I'm sure, just like Contender sang years ago, clean like a whistle. So, no amount, and you can't make it up, you know, because my tempo is the tempo of my modus operandi to doing what is correct. So I always do what is correct. And Juni, I could have fired a lot of people from the government. As I said before, my brother Hastings was the first person to be dismissed by CCM in 92. When I came to government in 2006, I could have come back with the same amount of revenge, not so, and said, well, okay, he's my blood brother, and he was put out of work, and so I come back to put out other people. I wouldn't do that. I didn't do that. We sought to bring the country together, unite the people around common ideas and ideals, and of course, people felt that we shouldn't have done it. So you have a situation now where people are actually happy with the dismissal of some persons. I say finally, to you, Junie, and to Mr. Brantley, the dialysis unit is $600,000, and the urology center for prostate screening and prostate operations is $400,000. $1 million is sitting at the Alexandra Hospital under his watch. And you know, in management, they say he has gone to the Peter principle. You get promoted to your highest level of incompetence, a higher level of incompetence. Those sit at the hospital, $1 million of needy people money at the hospital to look after people with dialysis care, needing dialysis treatment, and $400,000 for men who need help with diseases of the urinary tract. They sit at the Alexandria Hospital, $1 million investment of people's money. That must undertake his attention. That is enough to go home to, you know. That is enough to go home over. Thank you.
Well, that's how we're going to wrap up today's edition of Issues. Certainly a lot of food for thought. And in the days and weeks ahead, we plan to continue the dialogue.